Let's talk TV. In a competitive 2025 ratings battle, both Channel 7 and 9 declaring victory as Australia's leading television network, showcasing their unique strategies and audience claims in the world of broadcasting. For more, I'm joined in the studio today by Darren Woolley from Trinity P3. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Aaron. Good to be here.
Yeah, very much so. All right, my first editor told me that if you torture these statistics enough, they'll tell you anything. Is that what happens here?
Well, yes, the other quote is lies, damn lies and statistics. And I think that's what we're seeing here. You know, you can cut any data to tell the story you want it to tell.
Yes.
And when you delve into those numbers, and I think that's important because the networks are using this as a headline. But in delving into it, you start to see how they've manipulated or let's say put a particular lens on it to make their own story look better than it is.
Well, talk to us about that. What are the main claims?
Okay, so the main thing is that do you look at all the data or do you selectively pick the parts that give you a better story? And, you know, of course,
we all know the answer to that.
Yeah, you know, McCann Erickson, the famous advertising agency, said truth well told. Well, you know, I think that's being generous in this case. What we're seeing is the networks, for instance, 7 are including All Day because they've got quite strong ratings with their sunrise program and their morning program. Whereas 9 are leaving that out and going peak time because that's where they've got stronger ratings.
So one is saying all times, the other is saying prime time, basically.
Exactly. Then the other thing is that 7's looking at only the ratings periods, which leaves out 9's strength with the summer tennis. So 9 is saying all of year, so their numbers look better over the whole year.
Historically, though, it was the 40 weeks of the ratings year, right? That was what it used to be about when ratings mattered. And that is my next point. Why are they tussling over numbers and not profits?
Well, because what we're seeing, and as we've both talked about previously, you know, this is an area that's under huge competition, you know, particularly from YouTube and the streamers that are all moving into advertising. So they're competing against really strong performers for that advertising dollar. The thing is that they want to be the top of what's a smaller and smaller pie. And so that's why this has become so important. They're really wanting to be the king of that small island rather than looking at competing at the whole marketplace.
So the Titanic's hit the iceberg, it's going down, the violinists of the orchestra are moving further up towards the back of the ship and they're having a tussle over who's the loudest.
And absolutely, and in some ways it goes counter to all the things that we've been hearing during the upfronts, which is they were talking about the need for the industry to work together and compete, for free-to-air television and their other stations to compete here against those big players. And then they turn around and when it comes to sales, they're immediately saying, well, we're the best of this smaller group.
A couple of years ago, Beverly McGarvey made a big point at Channel 10 to say that it was about all year now, and they were programming for 52 weeks of the year, not 40 weeks of the year. Is that where things have changed? Is that the case that networks now program for 52 weeks of the year, and therefore it is correct to take into account the off-peak seasons as well?
Well, the ratings period was set by the networks. You know, that's why they went for the shorter number so that they didn't have to be on all the time. But now their competitors are on 24/7, 365.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't take a break over summer.
Or the streamers. Netflix is always there when you want to watch, and they're competing and selling advertising for those eyeballs. So to just say, here's the ratings, and then there's questions around OzTam, and, you know, because it's a sample, it's not actual total numbers.
Yeah, now, 2,000 homes or something like that, right?
Yeah, so it's a substantial sample, but you know the platforms will tell you that they're giving you total audience.
And as Newspoll has shown us, they don't always get it right when it matters. I think it's interesting because we talk about 7 and 9 who are clearly, historically, always vying for number 1, but there's Channel 10 as well, who for a long time was doing really well with the younger demos, right up until 9 Go and 7 Mate, and obviously YouTube as well. How's Channel 10 faring at the moment? Because they've had Big Brother.
Look, Channel 10's hanging in there. They're still a distant third of the 3, and it's interesting also in this TV wars, they've left out the only other network, free-to-air network that has advertising, which is SBS, which is also a smaller part of the market, but still a competitor. But they're choosing to leave them out of the mix.
Yes, which is interesting because when it comes to video on demand, it's a whole other story as well, right? Because we're still talking linear television that fewer and fewer people are tuning into. They're watching things on catch-up catch-up. And how does that fare into this? Do you think that it is being treated with the same level of esteem by the networks that viewers are doing it?
And also advertisers. Advertisers are after eyeballs and they're after attention. So whether that's catch-up, it's streaming, or it's free-to-air, live, linear, I think they're looking for those numbers. And that's what we're seeing here, is a competition for a perception that this network will give you those numbers.
Let's talk about sport's role in all of this as well. How important is sport to free-to-air television for the numbers, but also, interestingly, for the streamers, for 9 Now, for 7+?
Well, and as we see, 9 has included January because the Australian Open is a big audience.
Well, when you're paying $100 million for the rights to something, you'd hope it could be included.
And Olympics every 4 years and World Cup, there are a lot of sporting events that really draw an audience, but that idea of whether it's streamed free to air or whether it's going through pay is always going to be a tension point, I think, for the marketplace and an issue for the government.
It's interesting, finally, on this topic, because historically there was a gentleman's agreement between the networks that when it was an Olympics year, you wouldn't count the 2 weeks in the ratings, and that has become a bit of a tussle as well.
Well, it's sort of overlooked now because everyone is competing, as I said, for a smaller part of the pie.
All right, let's move on. Because concerns over artificial intelligence disrupting classifieds businesses have wiped billions from their valuations, speculation rising that the UK property portal Rightmove could be at risk from REA Group. Darren, talk to us about this, because obviously there's been a lot happening when it comes to the real estate market. We've seen moves at domain, change of ownership there. Talk to us about the role of AI.
Okay, so the first thing is the irony. It was not that long ago that on
old newspapers.
Yes, on a Saturday morning you needed a weightlifting exercise to lift a copy of all the classified ads. They were known as the rivers of gold at News and Fairfax.
Yeah. And
technology platforms came along and aggregated those largely for free so that they could sell advertising. Or they were getting it, and in the case of Domain and REA, they were getting the real estate agents to basically pay for that. What's happened now is the AIs are making it that as a consumer or user, you don't even have to go to those websites. AI is going into the sites, into those online classifieds, searching through it and giving you exactly what you're looking for. And in some cases with agentic AI can even make a purchase for you. I'm not sure they're up to purchasing a house, but they could put in your application for your mortgage with one of the banks.
Which is the same problem that the news industry is going through as well, where you Google something, it goes and gets the details and the news organisation isn't getting the click. But for REA, their business model isn't just based on clicks, it's based, as you say, on real estate agents paying to be on the website. That will still happen, even if AI is going to that website and giving you the information without you having to go to it. They still get the money, don't they?
Yeah, except that they're still competing for a perception in the market that the audience is coming to them. And if the audience is not landing on the site, how do you get the attribution model or the attribution result of being able to say you actually got that sale or you generated that lead?
So what does this do then, I guess, to company valuations?
Well, potentially it's going to erode them. And eventually you could find that the amount of traffic actually going to these websites will be very low, or significantly lower than it is now, because the AI is stealing it in the same way as they're stealing it from newspapers and other websites.
I mean, this could be pretty disastrous. You think about News Corp Australia, they pretty much are REA when it comes to the profit engine of that company and the revenue engine. What happens when, we're just at the beginning of AI, the AI journey. This is just the start. We hear about 2 years' time there's going to be general intelligence, etc. This could be a really big threat to the rivers of gold that still exist for these organisations.
So the only strategy at the moment is to start to optimise for AI and to have the AIs coming to the site and giving you attribution.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Darren Woolley, Trinity P3. Great to see you in the studio, by the way.
Thanks, Aaron. Great to be here.
Talk soon.